Licensing Contractors is meeting by electronic means to conduct essential business as authorized by Governor Lee's Executive Order Number 16 and extended by Executive Order Number 78. Meeting remotely is considered a reasonable measure to protect the safety and welfare of Tennesseans while ensuring government business may continue in a manner that is open and accessible to the public. All votes by the board will be by roll call.
Mr. Whittington, I think you're on mute.
There we go. Thank you. Need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Motion. Can I get a second, please?
Second. Hey, Keith, this is Ron. I just joined.
Good, Ronnie. Glad to have you. I've got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Can we get a roll call vote, Carol?
Yes. Andy Allen?
Yes.
Mark Brudd?
Yes.
Randy Chase?
Yes.
Jerry Hayes?
Yes.
Benny Jones?
Yes.
Jennifer Ransom?
Yes.
Reese Smith?
Yes.
Ronnie Tickle?
Yes.
And Keith Whittington?
Yes.
Okay.
The next thing, has everyone had a chance to go over the meeting minutes of the January 26, 2021 meeting? If so,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
entertain a motion.
I'd move for approval. Reese Smith. Second, Ronnie
Thank you,
Tickle.
Reese. We've got a motion and a second then to approve the meeting minutes.
I have
we'll take
one
the vote.
change. I'm sorry. I do have one change. I left off Jennifer Ransom on the board members that attended, and I'll get that corrected. But other than that, everything else is okay.
Okay, then I guess the motion will include that change to approve in the second.
Yes, sir.
And a roll call vote.
Okay.
Andy Allen?
We'll have
Mark
a vote
Brudd?
on the motion.
Mark Brudd, yes.
Randy Chase?
Yes.
Jerry Hayes?
Yes.
Benny Jones?
Yes.
Jennifer Ransom?
Yes.
Reese Smith?
Yes.
Ronnie Tickle?
Yes.
And Keith Whittington?
Yes. Okay. Now we'll get into license reviews and approvals by the board. The hardships. Can we get a motion to ratify the hardships?
I'll make a motion to ratify. This is Benny.
Thank you, Benny. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second. This is Jerry.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to ratify the hardships. Can we just take each one of these sections and then do a roll call vote on all reviews, or do you need to do it by section, Carolyn?
Let me ask Liz.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. You can do every section except for the application with factors by roll call. So if you want to do the hardships, the initial applications, the contractor revisions, and the LLE, LLP, you can do that all by one roll call. We just have to do the application with factors separately.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Okay, then the initial contractor apps, those are the waived interviews. Do we have any questions about any of those? Contractor revisions. And I think we only had LLEs this time. There were no LLPs. So I will entertain a motion at this time that we approve the hardships the contractor initial apps, the contractor revisions, and the LLE applications.
Andy Allen,
Yes.
Mark Brudd,
Yes.
Randy Chase,
Yes.
Jerry Hayes,
Yes.
Benny Jones,
Yes.
Jennifer Ransom,
yes,
Reese Smith,
Yes.
Ronnie Tickle,
Yes.
and Keith Whittington.
Yes. Now we have applications with factors. And I guess we'll start. Kathy says that I have all the applications with factors. They start with 9951. This was unlicensed home improvement in Shelby County. They had 3 projects that were over 200. Well, they were just unlicensed, and I've recommended a fine of $250 per violation they had listed. Once they satisfy that, to approve the application. On 9910, they had 2 projects that they listed in Hamilton County for unlicensed. I've recommended the $250 fine each for those, and then approve the license. Then 9990, I denied because of the lack of experience. This was I believe, a home improvement contractor out of Shelby County. Had a lot of other realtor experience, not very long in realtor, but they wanted to get a home improvement license to do, I think it was some type of home restoration or whatever. I saw absolutely no experience in any kind of construction whatsoever that would have led me to approve that. So I denied that license. Also, I had a home improvement application that had a complaint, and I think my dissertation to that was that we hold that application until resolution of the complaint. That was number 9821. Have I covered them all? I'm trying to find where the full list is.
This is Ronnie. I've got one, Keith.
Okay, Ronnie, go ahead.
I've got 75172 LLC, the Gravel Company, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Josh Cannon. This is kind of weird. Randy looked at it, and Randy questioned it, and then it got sent to me, and I talked to this gentleman, and he passed his BCA and had a real good financial statement, but he didn't have a whole lot of experience. So I told him he needed to get some experience. So he sends me a real good documentation of what he did on building a house and the budget and everything, and the people who worked on it. But then he sends a letter and tells us that he helped somebody build a house and was a supervisor. So at that point, I said, okay, we got a little problem here. So I think we need to fine him. It's a shame for $250 for working without a license, and get a little bit more experience. And if after we fine him for this $250, if he'll come back, I think we can grant him his license. But he's really does gravel, and Randy and I both think he really needs an HRA license because that's really what he's more experienced than anything else. And I asked him about it. He said that he hadn't really thought about that he just wanted to build 1 or 2 houses a year, and that's all he wanted to do. So as of right now, find him $250, and we'd need to write him a letter and tell him what we think about maybe going to HRA and do something else. And then if he pays that fine, then if Kathy let us know, then I guess Randy and I can talk, and then we'll get back with the board. Is that all right with you, Randy?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. That's my recommendation.
Okay, Andy, you had one too, didn't you?
I did 48550 volunteer builders. So this one, he's trying to increase his value of his his monetary limit, and right now he's at $720,000. And if you look at all his experience, every one of them is over $720,000. But then he replied back after he was asked about it and said that the way he understood it, the monetary limit is based off cost and not the sale price. We did not exceed $720,000. So I went back and looked at it, and it looks like all these are spec homes. So I need a little help on. I'm not used to dealing with the residential side. On a spec home, is it the sale cost, or what are we basing their license limit on?
Many times it's the amount on the building permit.
Yes, spec
Like,
homes, it's the cost or the value, and it's usually you go by the permit amount. And I believe the board had I think you call it a declaratory order hearing a while back, and that's what they decided was that the spec home could be, the limit would have to cover the permit amount, but they weren't limited on what they could sell it for.
Okay, well, that being the case, he's approved. I recommend the approval because everything's in order. It's just, he was almost at $1 million on a lot of these homes, and his value is his cap, was 720,000. So that was the only hang up.
okay, so you are recommending approval now.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'll get back into those that I had. Had 76228. I wanted the board to discuss this. He's got complaints from when he was licensed under a different license that was closed and flagged due to him moving out of state. Now he's come back in and he's trying to get a completely new license. Carolyn, I don't have this file where I can pull it up. Maybe Kathy, you can help us out a little bit with it.
Was it?
It's 76228. Homes by Chris.
Oh, that's the one that had the complaint from many years ago, and we closed it and flagged it because he had moved out of state, and now he's wanting to come back into Tennessee to do a project.
This is Ronnie. Did we find him or anything, or just flag him?
Just closed and flagged him. I've got the legal report from 2014. It was closed and flagged because he left the state. It says respondent has moved out of state and has, it does say, and has worked towards dissolving his company.
Is this the one that's there in I'm trying to think where he's trying to build at. He'd built homes in there before, and a customer wrote a letter wanting him to build a house for him.
Right. Yeah. It seems like it was East Tennessee area, and um, his his physical address is in Pennsylvania, and then he has a mailing address
Yeah,
in Memphis.
it's kind of strange. He does have a mailing address there in Memphis. He's got a excavation or a oil pipeline business in Pennsylvania, and for whatever the reason, he wants to come back to um, East Tennessee and build at least one house, if not more. He had built dozens, but he got into some real financial strains there and worked out some crafty deals with 3 or 4 homeowners when he got in over his head. And then he left one homeowner holding the bag and left the state. So I'm not sure that I agree with any licensure there.
This is Ronnie. I agree with Keith.
Okay, then I will make a motion to deny the license. And
I
we'll add
second
that.
it.
Okay. We've got another one here that's number 39687. This guy has listed projects on his application that were all over his license limit. And when I asked the girls to send him a letter to explain what went on, he come back with mathematical equations and solutions of things that made absolutely no sense toward the cost of the homes, and basically just giving us a runaround. So I have denied this license because of the lack of cooperation um, with and being over limit. And I think that maybe legal needs to take this up and pursue the over limit. And I want to think that this was just an increase. I've not got enough computer screens here to have all the files for these that I've got.
Keith, it was an increase.
Okay, thank you. So I denied the increase for the lack of cooperation, and perhaps maybe once he gets denied, he will maybe be forthcoming and revisit this. We had a revision here, license number 68306. This was Modern Contracting. If I remember this one correctly, they've got a BCB and an MU, and they were wanting a BCA license. Is that correct?
Look. For 38306?
68306.
That must be one of Kathy's.
No, it's an increase. They wanted to go from 1.3 million
right.
to unlimited.
To
Yes.
unlimited, and they had
Yes.
not, any of the experience that they listed was 2007, 8, 9, and 10. I think the most recent they had put on there was 2000 and maybe 13. So it's getting close to be 8 years old. We asked for more recent experience, and they said they had built out some subdivisions and built over 100 homes, but they didn't list any. So I've denied the increase request on that. Perhaps maybe they'll be forthcoming in the future. We've got 73398. It's Tip Top Construction. This is another one that I've got listed for discussion. They've got complaint history under another license, or I wish I could get all these up on the screen, but Kathy, can you help me with that one?
It's Carolyn. That's Jason Fox.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, yes. He had a prior license that expired in 2019 due to bankruptcy, and then he applied for a new license by hardship in the name of Tip Top. And he started out applying in 2019. His license was denied, and it required him to interview once the 3 complaints had been resolved. And they were closed and flagged on our end. And just as he inquired again, that's when we checked with legal about reopening the complaints. We wanted to see how they had been resolved. And of course, he had, I believe, the actual complaint had never been addressed, where he, I think he exceeded his monetary limit, and that was before he got a license. So there was 3 different complaints, and one did show where he had applied for a license after he already contracted a house. But he did provide information on the cases have been settled or dismissed in court. And I believe he's going to be present today to give his side of to give more information. So Jason Fox, are you on the line? I don't believe he's on, but I had asked him to that he could present his request to the board to give them more information, because all we have is just statements from his attorney that the cases were dismissed in court. I don't know if they were dismissed because of the bankruptcy or if he actually resolved the issues. So that's really all we have.
I remember reading over all of this, Carolyn, and I do remember saying something about we needed to discuss it before the board. This one, I've got 3 parts to it. Yeah, I think what we need to do is reopen those complaints on the application. Well, that we had on the previous license, and let legal handle this. This guy has got a BCA little r license. This is another one of those troubling little r licenses that we have. We had a limit of 82,000, and he's requesting us to increase it to 125,000, if I'm correct. Since he is not here today, I'm going to suggest that we let legal handle this and review the previous license before and handle those complaints before we move forward with it.
Okay.
The next one I had was 47447. This is another application that had some legal proceedings with the board, and I've recommended that we hold for the outcome of those legal proceedings before we move forward. That is, again, license number 47447. Have we covered them all?
No, I believe there is, did you cover 76112? New Beginnings Landscape.
Okay, I did not cover
cover
76112. This is a complaint. They had a complaint, and I have approved that after they've paid the fine from that penalty that we have assessed.
And I believe, oh, go ahead.
Also, number 66406, that'd be Tennessee Roofing Concepts. I have approved it since the fine has been paid.
And there's one last one, 76282, number 14 on the list. This was TriStar Tradesman. This is the one, Keith, that you had several concerns about.
Yes, they had no recent experience. This is a guy that claims to have gone to a testing center, and that the testing center on 2 different occasions gave him incorrect ends on the book. When he did finally register an exam score, I think it was 68 or 69. I can't remember the
I think it was 64.
That he wanted to experience that it would even indicate he could pass the test. I think that I remember saying that if he could come back and pass the exam, we could reconsider and go ahead and maybe issue a license. But he appears to not be able to pass the exam, and without any experience, I can't approve it.
I agree.
Then that will be my recommendation for this case. I
believe that. I think that's all of them.
We have them on now. Then I'll accept a motion that we approve the applications with factors portion of our meeting.
Keith, I've got a quick question. This is Jesse Gentry, legal counsel. Can I ask for a clarification on 2? On number, what is it, 9910, you'd recommended a fine of $250 per project for unlicensed activity. I actually have received a consent order and a payment for $750 for one project from this respondent. Would you like me to talk to Elizabeth Bendel and just make sure that we're not fining them twice for unlicensed activity and just doing $250 for the ones that they disclosed that we haven't fined them for? Because it may end up being a $500 penalty instead of that $750 listed if they disclosed that one that we already fined them for.
Okay, Jesse, you cut out for about 90% of what you asked me on
Okay,
my
I'm sorry.
end.
Okay, 9910. we had fined them $750 for one case of unlicensed activity already. Would you like to do $250 per violation that they disclose to you? And then, I mean, it may end up being $500 if they disclose this one that we've already fined them for. But do you just want me to talk to Elizabeth Bendel to make sure?
I think that's very appropriate.
Perfect. And then one other question I have is on 47447. It's that Kello Construction one. I think it's a name change application. Did you want to, because we may we may settle this one shortly. Are you approving it once it's settled, or did you want to revisit this at the May board meeting since it says hold for outcome of legal proceedings?
Here again, I wished I could pull all these up in front of me to where I could refresh with it, but I think we can go ahead and approve it once we settle that.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure when I talk to their legal counsel that I am able to inform them correctly. All right, that's all that I had. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion and a second to approve applications with factors?
So moved. This is Jennifer.
I'll second. This is Benny.
Good. Got a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Andy Allen?
Yeah.
Mark Brudd?
Yes.
Randy Chase?
Yes.
Jerry Hayes?
Yes.
Benny Jones?
Yes.
Jennifer Ransom?
Yes.
Reese Smith?
Yes.
Ronnie Tickle?
Yes.
And Keith Whittington?
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is for discussion about the restricted limited license, the BCA little r. It's a discussion that's asking us to consider increasing the BCAR monetary limit from 125,000 to 200,000. I think we've got someone that wants to speak here, Danny Flug. If you're on the line, go ahead and let's hear what you've got to say, sir.
Well, I appreciate the time. I retired from working with TU Parks after 42 years, and they asked me to teach this class. And I've learned a lot from these students too. And over the years, this hasn't been increased, and I know it's just supposed to be where they can work with this 125, and then hopefully they'll go up and take the test. But as you can see, some of these people are not able to do that, but they can work under the 200,000. And with the material cost right now, 125,000 really presses to do a whole lot. As we know, OSB boards went from $5 to $32 a board. So, and 2x4s. So I took it on my own to be able to speak to y'all, and I appreciate the time, because there's a lot of good people in this classes over the years, and there's going to be some that y'all will know that you turn down, and I understand that. And I know some in my class, I know they're not going to make it because some of the experience, they'll talk to me. The thing I do with them is do go over all the codes, and I really think them taking the class is their first step to learn the codes. And I know some contractors would not like them to have their license increased because they think it might be stepping on some of their jobs, but there's so many jobs that they can do, smaller jobs, that we need contractors like them out there. And by having them licensed and insured, that's going to keep them where if they have a problem, they can come to y'all, and y'all, just like you are doing today, saying, hey, we're going to fine you or whatever. And I emphasize with them in the classes also to work with the building inspectors. And I'm friends with them, to able to call them up or see them if I need to help the students, even after the class. And then y'all have got something in play now that they have to take an 8-hour class every year to help them do that. We do have a class. I've asked for blueprint and estimating. And since we've got that, maybe a class on the 2018 codes that's changed that they could take for their 8 hours and help them out on that. But I would like to see it increase for them and keep them in our classes or in our group to be permitted and licensed, because I emphasize the people that ask me, not just the students, but people that need work, get a licensed contractor, make sure they have their license, because it's going to make an effect on the building at the end. And then that way they can be permitted and know that, it's built right, hopefully. And I just feel like a lot of them, they're just not able to take the test and pass it, but they can do the building. We got people that can go to college and some of them trade schools. And a lot of them that I do teach, I know from the questions and from what I see from them, they can do the work, but they're limited of how much work they can do. Now, in my business with TU Parks, I could do a $200 million job, hospitals and all, or heritage landing, but some of them couldn't do that. And then I do have people that do take the class and then do take the test and take it and pass it, and some fail it and then take the class and then pass it later. But I think the ones that really are not able to monetarily or physically run a big job, I think a 200,000, they could build something and make a good living and be legal and do a good job and then be under the watchful hand of ours. And I always tell them, even after the class, that if they need me to come and look at the job, help them out on something, I do it. And then also get the building inspectors involved if I need to, whether it's in Memphis, Nashville, or wherever. Even though I'm in Chattanooga, I try to help them out because, like I said, I'm retired from it. This year it'd be 50 years I've been in the trade. I'm not just a teacher. I started out as an apprentice carpenter and worked my way up to a project engineer. But I really think it would help these classes and keep them going, to have these classes and have a little bit more where they could build smaller houses. And I know in 2021, they got tiny houses coming. Well, they got tiny houses now into 2018, but you got some more codes coming up in 2021 that we need to teach them also when they come out. But I think it would be, I'd be glad for discussions on any of it, but I'm feel like it'd be good for people that can't go higher to be able to, where they could make a good living and handle that amount of money. And by hearing y'all talk, I see how it works, and I felt like this the way, because a lot of them would say, well, I don't have the experience. I said, well, you're going to have the experience. You just can't have a realtor's license and get it. And some realtors do take the class just to learn the codes. So it is a good class. A lot of them take just to learn the codes. But I think some of these people that's out there building, I want to keep them in the fold, as we call it. They're going to find a way to get out there and do the work, but we really like them to be working under the permit and under the codes that we have. So that's why I say if we increase it, I think we'll get more, and I think we'll keep them, a lot of them out there getting permits. And I appreciate the time, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
This is Ronnie Tickle. The intent of the BCA little r was to get people to get experience and move up within a 2 to 3 year time frame, not to maintain that BCA little r for continuance. One of the big things that we have is we have quite a few complaints with the BC even now. We raised it originally from 75,000 to 125,000 to get the people to get experience and to move on up to increase to the BCA.
Okay, I remember when that happened. I just started teaching it, and I understand that you want them to go up, and I can understand that too, but I don't feel like not everybody is capable of doing that. If there's, if we have to, I don't know, have another license where they can work under the 200,000 besides what you're talking about restricted, because some of the people cannot. I know from my experience on the job, some people couldn't take care of larger jobs and take all that on, the insurance or keeping up with all the cost or how to run a big job. And where this program, I feel like, does help them, and it helps them from going other avenues. And I understand what you're saying about this is supposed to help them, but a lot of them, not everybody's able to go to college. A lot of them can go to the trade schools, to do that. Not all of them's going to be lawyers, but some of them are good contractors, but they just don't have the mentality to take care of the business to that height. But they can do a smaller business and fill in the construction trade that we're in to help that plug that we need, especially smaller contractors, to do it, because some of the bigger contractors can't get to some of the work that we have out here right now, especially, and home improvements and all that.
Daniel, for clarification, when you say that they're not able to go to the next level or manage a larger job, are you referring to their ability to potentially pass the exam, or just to manage a larger, $200,000 job? Like, what's the limitation? What's the biggest obstacle? The exam or just business savviness?
Okay, from my experience, and I have a high school diploma, but I went through the trade schools and all, and get what I did. And them to take the test kind of scares some of them, and some of them worry about taking it, or they're not good at taking tests. Not everybody can take these tests and pass them. Now, I do give them a quiz. I call it a quiz, so that way they can look at the book and learn the codes this way, and then we go over it, and it makes it easier for them. Now, that, as far as taking the test, I think a lot of them are going to have a hard time taking the test to understand it. I haven't never looked at the whole test. They keep wanting me to teach that class and look at the test, but I hadn't done that. But then, on my job, when I was running work, I had no problem what size job I ran, but there were superintendents and foremen that couldn't handle a larger job. And these guys, they can handle a smaller job and control it and take care of it and do a good job. So that's why I said, and then the cost that they're going to have to do to be able to get the higher license puts a hardship on them also. And they can stay with what they got and make a good living at it and do a good job and hopefully learn more through it. I know they do if they stay in it. But I hope I answered your question.
Well, as far as taking tests, I understand about getting shaky when you take tests. But we do have an opportunity to bring the people in, and they can face us, and we can ask questions and quiz somebody, and that releases a lot of pressure on the people on taking the test, because they at that time, if they had this little R, they would have the experience, and the questions that we would normally ask would be right in what they're doing. That's as far as taking the test. I understand about that.
Okay. Well, and I do too. I don't like tests myself, but You always have them. But the other thing is are they financially able to do what they have to do to get the higher license too?
Well, that's going to be the
that
same.
goes
That's going to
along.
be the same thing on the little R. We're going to for them to get this $200,000. They're going to have a more financial than they have now to get
Yes.
the 200,000.
Yeah, but they have to also take some other classes to do that and buy some more books. And the books are out there, what, $1,200 or something like that. Then they have to take the class, business law class and stuff like that, that some of them, I don't know if they'd understand all of it or whatever. And that's, I know
Right.
it's higher learning and all, but that some of them just built that way.
And
Sure.
that would be a concern that I would have, is if they don't understand that, then do they have enough understanding to be handling a larger job? That's here again. I'll echo what Ronnie said. The BCA little R was originally intended to only be a 2-year license. Once that 2 years was up, they were going to have to go ahead and test for their BCA. Now, over the years, the legislature has made a BCA little R just a permanent type of license. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's only been 2-3 years ago that they increased the limit from 75 to 125. So it has been increased. And again, it's really not up to the board to make that decision. That's done through the legislature. And some of the board members I shouldn't say approving, but weren't necessarily agreeing with raising it from 75 to 125 when it did go. So you got two different camps of thought. I understand where you're wanting to go with it, but at the same time, I could not agree to it, because if they don't understand enough to take a test, then I don't think they need to have a license to build a house that gets up in around 200,000 if they don't have that basic understanding. I'm not certain that I buy your argument that it's $1,200 to buy books, because if they've learned enough with their BCA little R, or they have worked enough under another contractor, they should have a general knowledge enough to be able to pass the BCA exam. It's not that difficult. They would need a code book. They'll have to buy a code book if they're building houses anyway. So that much they've already had to spend. Now the basic business knowledge, that's something that time will teach you. That's something that doing that, firsthand when you have employees to pay and et cetera, that's something that you learn. So here again, I don't know that they have to spend $1,200 on books to be able to take tests.
Well, what we've looked into on the books is there's about 6 different books, and an OSHA book is one of them. And the code book we give out when we do the class anyhow, so they already have that. But what we looked into, they're around $1,200 of all the different books that they go through. I've got a few of them that people give me over the years that have that. And I understand what y'all saying about the be restricted. I would just wish there was something that we could set up as a license for somebody that could build under 200,000 then, instead of just having it restricted and move it just temporary, so we could get these people a job on that.
That's the BCA, and BCA can be from anywhere from 0 to to infinity. And there, I don't really see a point of having another additional license to go in there, because it's just residential construction. Now, in the meantime, in between, without even taking exam, they would have to take the business and law exam, but they can get licensed up to 5 trade categories.
Yeah.
You understand that? So we've gone. I think we have plenty of opportunities and avenues for licensing without creating another one. And
like Keith says, our book indicates what you can add additional items to what you're going to do. Go ahead, Reese. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, that's an excellent point, Keith, that you can get up to 5 categories there, which can get you trim, can get you drywall, can get you paint, and then the B-Law pass rate, the business law exam passing rate, Carolyn, correct me, but is it not in the 80%? Hello.
I think Carolyn left us, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
It is. It's in the 80 percentile. It's very easy to pass. So.
I think we have the channels right now to do what you're asking for. Is just being able to understand what we're doing, and I'm sure that, and I know that you're teaching the classes and everything, and thank goodness for it. But I do think we have some avenues right now that will help your students and help us in the trade. I agree with you. Everybody right now, if you're a contractor, you're busy. And I agree with the lumber going up. I agree with all that stuff. But still, I think we do have what it will take to help our industry with what we have in place.
Okay. Well, all I done was try to present it to them because I knew I think it's 2014 when it raised it from 75 to 125. So, I show them how to estimate, and when you estimate now with the materials, you go way over 125 for 100 or for a 900 square foot house.
Right.
And so, that's what we're trying to do is get to where we could build a small house with 125, and it's just almost impossible. But I agree, if they could do it that way, we might have to add, or Chattanooga State have to add some classes for them to do that. And I don't know if they have the business law class or not, to tell you the truth.
Okay, anything else? Any other board member have any comment?
Well, I appreciate the time and effort anyhow, and I enjoyed watching how y'all work stuff out and all.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. We appreciate you appearing before the board.
All righty, and I'll get out of here because y'all don't need me for the rest of it.
No.
And if I can help y'all, feel free to contact me. And thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the legal report. Jesse Gentry, are you there? I know now that we're having some trouble. I'm watching people come in and out on my end. I'm not sure if everyone else is having the same trouble, but let's just hopefully we can get through it.
I hope so too. I'm here, and so I've got the legal report with a couple changes that I've already received. So I'll go ahead and start with those changes, and then we can go back and discuss anything else that needs to be discussed. The first one on the legal report would be number 39, which is case number 2021003121. The original recommendation was to close. The decision now is to do a letter of warning and open a complaint against the other contractor to investigate whether he's exceeding his monetary limit. The next one would be number 43, 2021004471. The original recommendation is a letter of warning. The decision is to concur with that, but just to make sure that it's strongly advising the respondent of the consequences of unlicensed activity. The next one would be number 51. And this is one just, I think that was more of flagged for discussion because there are several complaints involving this respondent. There's 5 complaints against this respondent licensed home improvement contractor on this report, but number 51 is 2020-085-101. And the recommendation was to authorize formal charges for unlicensed contracting and settlement thereof through voluntary license revocation. The decision, there's also a discussion, the decision was to concur with that, but there's a discussion about potentially barring a license application. So I think maybe we could flag that one as well after we get that license revocation, just to make sure that that's brought back to the board's attention, because there are numerous allegations against this respondent for unlicensed activity.
Yeah, Jesse, I think I'm the one that had that one. And,
that's correct.
And I just wanted to ask the question if there was the potential for us to prevent this particular person, entity, whatever, from ever obtaining a license in the state of Tennessee again.
Mm-hmm.
Is that possible, or do we just have to flag it and revisit the issue when it comes up?
I think we'd still have to revisit it when it comes up. But based on the allegations from all of these complaints, I mean, we're up to 9 complaints against this respondent. So I think if we flag it at the very least, we'd still go through the factors for looking at, whether or not denial would be appropriate. It could be a situation where, he really turns things around. But I think based on everything that we've seen thus far, there would at the very least be a strong consideration for denial, because I think those factors would be met, even if it's a year, 5 years, maybe more time than that. But we should still look at it on a case-by-case basis, just to consider all the factors. But I think flagging it would at the very least make sure that this is one that we do revisit all those previous complaints after this HIC license is revoked. The next one is 59, which is complaint number 2020084001. The original recommendation was to authorize charges and settlement of through a consent order for a $250 civil penalty for unlicensed home improvement. The decision is to increase that to a $500 penalty for the settlement for unlicensed home improvement. The next one is case number 66 on the legal report, which is complaint number 2020095071. The original recommendation was to authorize formal charges and the settlement through a consent order, a $250 civil penalty for unlicensed home improvement. The decision was to increase that to a $500 civil penalty for the settlement of that case. Then we have number 70, case number 2020088991. Recommendation was to authorize formal charges and settlement through a consent order to $1,000 civil penalty for unlicensed home improvement contracting. This was one, the decision was to increase to, the decision was to increase to a $2,500 civil penalty. I think this is Ronnie's case, and I did follow up just to say that based on unlicensed home improvement, we have a limit of $1,000 per violation. So in this case, it could be a maximum for unlicensed home improvement of $2,000. But we also did get, as part of our investigation into this case, a forged document, or an altered document, I should say, that looked like the wall certificate for a contractor, where the respondent's name, who's unlicensed, was put over the other name of whoever held this. There is a license number on that belongs to another licensed contractor, and it appears the respondent was using this certificate to pass off that he was a licensed home improvement contractor. I do think we could potentially pursue charges for that specific violation, for holding himself out as a licensed contractor when he doesn't hold that licensure. So we could settle it with a $2,500 penalty, but we would have to go that route if that's something that the board would authorize me to pursue.
I like you to do whatever you can on that. I read the same thing, and you know, I was concerned about that. But on me, basically, this is Ronnie. I'd like you to do anything you can about that fraudulent stuff. It's just, you know, we've had that before, and that's just, it's tough enough on the front end, but then this fraudulent stuff is just something else.
Mm-hmm. And typically, you know, we'll get these complainants who will say they said they were, you know, licensed, bonded, and insured, but just saying you're licensed and having a business license doesn't always rise to that level of licensed contractor, which is what it requires in the statute. Here we do have a situation where we've got a document that we can show where he is trying to pass himself off as a licensed contractor. So I think we can proceed on that. And if we have a hearing, you know, we'll present that evidence, and we'll also pursue the unlicensed home improvement as well. So we'll do both of those.
Thank you.
Of course. Then we have number 72, which is 20200894441. The original recommendation was to authorize formal charges in the settlement through a consent order and a $250 civil penalty for unlicensed home improvement, and the decision is to increase that to a $500 civil penalty through the settlement of the consent order. So were there any other cases on the legal report that anyone wanted to discuss or change the recommendations or change the decisions for?
This is
I
Reese.
guess
I
not.
don't have any. Keith, there were a couple of commercial in there that in the first 34 that I didn't think the residentials were qualified to judge, but I went ahead anyway. But I just want to throw this out for our next meeting or later on this year. But on your remarks, you always include gross negligence and incompetence. I sort of have a problem with differentiating between the two. And I'm far from an attorney, but gross negligence gives me a lot more heartburn than incompetence. And so I don't know if they are supposed to be used in the same sentence, or are they two different?
Realistically, that's a really good question. Realistically, they should be treated as separately. When we send our inspector out, we typically ask, is this gross negligence or incompetence? And sometimes the inspector will differentiate and say, this specifically shows gross negligence or this shows incompetence. Sometimes they'll say both. So if they do say both, I do include that in the legal report or in my summary. Realistically, that is a decision for the board. So if we did have a hearing with a licensed contractor, I would probably either pick one if I felt like one was stronger to prove, but you know, ultimately it could be a decision where the board said, well, this is incompetence but not gross negligence, or this is gross negligence but not incompetence. So I do think if it's a situation on the legal report where you see one versus the other, you know, let me know, and that way I can make sure that when I'm settling it, that I'm telling the respondent that this is where the board found the action. You know, that the board felt like this was evidence of incompetence versus gross negligence. But that's actually a good question.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Are there any other
Jesse,
questions?
is that all you got?
It is.
All right, we appreciate it. I'm going to accept a motion now that we approve the legal report.
It's Ronnie, motion.
It's Jerry, second.
Motion and a second. Can we get a roll call vote?
Yes. Andy Allen,
Yes.
Mark Brudd,
Yes.
Randy Chase,
Yes.
Jerry Hayes,
Yes.
Benny Jones,
Yes.
Jennifer Ransom,
Yes.
Reed Smith,
Yes.
Ronnie Tickle,
Yes.
and Keith Whittington.
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is statutory citations. Elizabeth, you have that presentation?
I just want to address the board relatively quickly. We do have statutory authority to issue citations for unlicensed activity. That's with home improvement and regular contractor's license. How this works is that a citation will be issued if there is sufficient grounds for unlicensed activity, and this is all done administratively, to be done by Caroline and myself and centralized complaints. we issue a citation for a civil penalty, which would be $1,000. And the respondent then has 15 days to appeal this citation directly to us. So it eliminates a presentation to the board, which I believe would be beneficial for everyone in that it will decrease the legal report and hopefully address unlicensed activity quicker. And they have 15 days to respond, and then if they do respond with an appeal, it goes straight to a formal hearing as opposed to being presented to the board. It'll all be done administratively. So I think going forward after this meeting, we are going to start implementing this for both home improvement unlicensed activity and for contractors unlicensed activity. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. I just wanted to let you guys know that this is something we have the authority to do, and we're going to start exercising it going forward. And Jesse or Carolyn, I'm not sure if you have anything additional to say, but I believe I covered it.
Yeah. This would mean there would be less cases on the, well, we hope it will be less cases on the legal report for you all to review. And again, it would be just unlicensed cases on those where you all, where it's one complaint and it's, or one violation, and the citation, instead of putting it on the legal report for consent order, it would just go straight through as a citation. And on most of our consent orders or complaints on unlicensed activity, they do not respond. So when they don't respond, we still have to hold a formal hearing. But with a citation, if they don't respond, we can proceed with collection through a collection agency and close the complaint without having a formal hearing.
Is there a way that those that you do treat in this manner can be listed? That way the board can at least have the opportunity to have seen those that you handled?
Yeah, we can provide a list of citations that were issued for the month or in between board meetings. I think we can do that.
I think in between board meetings would be sufficient, just as long as we know, what is going on there, to keep an eye on that. Anybody else got anything on that? Okay, if not, Carolyn, the next item on the agenda is the NASCLA National Electrical Trade Exams.
Yes, NASCLA has a electrical trade exam similar to like their national commercial trade exam, and I forwarded the information to Andy Allen, have him look at it, and it's already accepted, I believe, by most of the states that we reciprocate with. I think it's about 10 different states take it. So in lieu of a contractor taking the CE trade exam, they would take the NASCLA Master's Electrical Exam. And with the LLE, in lieu of taking the LLE trade exam, they could take the NASCLA Journeyman's Exam, and we would accept it, just similar as the commercial trade exam. And Andy might want to add to it. I think he reviewed the information.
I did, Carolyn, and it looked very similar. And like she said, a lot of our states that reciprocate do it. So we're already accepting the exam from those states as it is. So it just made sense to accept it here as well.
So I'll need you all to vote whether or not you want to accept it, and we'll put it in place.
Okay, the motion needs to be then what? That we accept the NASCLA National Electrical Trade Exams reciprocity?
Yes.
Make a motion for that, Carolyn.
Okay.
I'll second it, Ms. Mark.
Okay.
Very well. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Andy
Can we do
Allen?
a roll?
Oh, yes. Andy Allen,
Yes.
Mark Brudd,
Yes.
Randy Chase,
Yes.
Jerry Hayes,
Yes.
Benny Jones,
Yes.
Jennifer Ransom,
Yes.
Reese Smith,
Yes.
Ronnie Tickle,
Yes.
and Keith Whittington.
Yes. The next item on the agenda will be the board updates. And
Yes.
that's Carolyn. So I guess you're going to start right off with the budget.
Yes. Our budget, as of through January, our balance, and this is after expenditures have been paid, for contractors and home improvement, it's $121,973. And LLEs and LLPs, our balance is $103,259. Also, do have a legislation update. There are, I believe, 3 bills that are currently moving through the legislature. There was a bill that we all, it hadn't been numbered yet, but it was, have been drafted, and that was the governor's bill regarding the universal licensing, and that's not going to be introduced after all. The homeowner permit bill, it seems to be moving through the legislature. There's also one that's moving through the legislature is where signs are exempted. And from what I could tell, it appeared to apply to Department of Transportation. It included that clause in the law, but I'm not for certain if that's what it is or not. But it exempts the definition of contractor for the signs, the electronic displays on highways. And that seems to be moving through the legislature. The last bill on here is House Bill 1092. It was introduced as for LLE faulty work reporting, that it had to be reported within 3 days. And then there has since been proposed an amendment. I don't know if it's been introduced yet, but there's a possibility that it's going to be presented, and it's asking for the limited license electrician amount go from working up to 25,000 instead, and going up to 50,000. And so I don't have a lot of information on that, but that's what's going on at as far as legislation on the current bills affecting contractors.
Why would they raise the limit from 25 to 50?
The reasoning is because of the pandemic, that materials have increased. But this was actually the same bill that was introduced last year prior to the pandemic. So not real sure.
Andy, what do you think?
I wrote Carolyn a little response to that as well, and I mean, you know, in my mind, it's designed to walk the house with, and you all are in the home building business there. What's houses going for a square foot right now?
Well, that's like saying how much is a car.
Exactly. So, you know, and I would think that 25,000 would be a good start, but the difference is, you know, you come from a house builder to a full blown, the largest electric license you have. There's no in between. So, if you were doing larger houses, I would think that you would be going over $25,000.
Now that's just for an LLE, though. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I think, Carolyn, correct me if I'm wrong, the LLP, are they not increased or asked to be increased already?
No, I haven't seen anything on the LLP.
But I don't think they're really asking our opinion whatsoever. They're just they're pushing the bill along and just giving us the information. Did I understand that, Carolyn?
Right.
Okay. That's always nice to know.
Yeah.
Okay, is that all the board updates, Carolyn?
Yes, that's pretty much just that we have scheduled and the formal hearings, several have been continued and settled. So we had 4 for March and 2 in April, and these the 2 in April that are coming up, and these are unlicensed cases. And then our next meeting will be May 25th. We may have a formal hearing on that second day. I'm not for sure yet, but I'll keep y'all posted in case we need the board for 2 days.
Okay, is there any new business to come before the board?
You think we might be in person at our next meeting, Carolyn? Doesn't the governor's order expire the end of this month or April?
Yes, it expires the end of April, so we'll find out whether it's going to be extended and whether we'll be meeting in person. So, but I'm sure if we do meet in person, they'll make, accommodations for those that don't feel safe traveling. So they may still allow some board members to meet remotely. So, but that's just a guess, but it could be extended, and but we'll know more at the end of April.
All right, well, any other business? Seeing none, then I'll accept the motion that we adjourn.
So
Motion second.
Got a motion and a second. You guys be safe out there, and we'll talk to you in the next meeting.
All right, y'all take care. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody have a good day.